The Cupertino Teen Commission and the Saratoga Youth Commission present Pizza and Politics, a political forum for teens. Tonight's forum will feature candidates vying for seats on the Cupertino Union School District Board, the Saratoga Union School District Board, and the California State Assembly 28th District.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. Welcome to Pizza and Politics. My name is Wang, and I'm the chair of the Saratoga Youth Commission. The Saratoga Youth Commission is comprised of 11 youth from 5 different schools, and we represent grades 8 through 12. And the mission of our commission is to connect the youth of our area to both the local community and the government. So we worked on this project, Pizza and Politics, alongside the Cupertino Teen Commission. So here's the chair of the Cupertino Teen Commission, Hershey.
Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Hershey Sriraman, and I'm the chairperson of the Cupertino Teen Commission. So the Cupertino Teen Commission is a group of 9 students selected by the City Council to plan community-wide events, represent the teen population of Cupertino, and advise City Council on matters important to teens. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of Cupertino, Mayor Gilbert Wang.
Welcome to the City of Cupertino and Community Hall. Let's give a warm applause to both Jeremy and Hershey for their hard work as chairperson for the Saratoga Teen Commission and the Cupertino City Teen Commission as well too. I'm so happy to see so many young folks here in this room. I won't say that my daughter's not here, but I wish she was here too, but she has another engagement tonight as well too. You're not at voting age, but I hope that when you turn 18, that you will also register to vote, because it's important, as your constitutional right, that to vote as well too. I'm very happy to see this second time. I was here 3 years ago, and I think this year I'm just so excited to see many of you. So I hope you're not here for community benefits or extra credit to be here, but you actually care about what the school board does for you. Tonight we have 2 school board races, one in the Cupertino School District as well in Saratoga, as well as the State Assembly District, and they'll tell you a little bit more on what they do. But again, I hope that you'll learn a lot tonight. I want to say thank you to both the Youth Commission of Saratoga and the Teen Commission of Cupertino, and enjoy tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce my colleague in our neighboring city of Saratoga, Emily Lowe.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Gilbert. I'm Emily Lowe. I'm the mayor of Saratoga. It's my pleasure to be here and to see a great turnout of audience. Our Saratoga Youth Commission is probably the most popular commission in that the kind of exposure that you guys have in the community is tremendous, and I always receive very positive feedback from your commitment and involvement. It's very important, as Mayor Wang said, to stay involved and care about your community, because this is the way that we can improve our society. A lot of you in the audience might not be of voting age, which is 18. But there's still ways that you can get involved in this political forum. How? Of course, by learning and by asking questions. And most of all, to communicate to your parents how you feel about the candidates. So this is also one positive way for you to get involved. And without much ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening, who is our city clerk, Mrs. Crystal Berthello. Like a lot of youth commissioners, she also spent a lot of time preparing for this forum and promoting this forum. So thank you very much. And with that, I suppose I can pass the microphone to Crystal.
Thank you for the introduction, Mayor Lowe. My name is Crystal Berthello, and I'm the City Clerk for the City of Saratoga. It's a pleasure to be part of this forum tonight, which is intended to engage and inform our future voters. As members of democracy, we have an opportunity to influence and participate in our government through elections. With this opportunity comes a responsibility to be informed and to take the time to learn about the issues on the ballot and the candidates who are volunteering to represent us. Even though some of you are not eligible to vote yet, you are already developing the good habits of informed and engaged voters. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a couple of ground rules for tonight. First, we have 2 commercial breaks scheduled, one at 7:40 p.m. and one at 8:15 p.m. We ask that all of you in the audience remain in this room until the scheduled breaks. Please wait to re-enter or leave this room until the breaks. Additionally, we have areas marked off on the floor where we have designated no standing zones. Please make sure you're not standing in these zones so you don't block the camera views. Most importantly, we encourage audience participation. Please feel free to ask the speakers questions about issues that you're interested in. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand and one of the commissioners from Cupertino or Saratoga will come by with a mic so you can ask your question. Because this forum is geared towards youth, we will be taking questions from members of the audience who are youth before our adult audience members. And if you're here for extra credit, we will have a sign-in sheet in the lobby after the second round of candidates. Our first group of speakers features candidates from the Cupertino Union School District Board of Education. Here with us we have Ms. Kristen Lin, Mr. Chris Zhang, and Ms. Anjali Kausar. Unfortunately, Ms. Soma McCandless, who planned to be here tonight, couldn't make it because she is under the weather. The Cupertino Union School District Board of Trustees consists of 5 members who are elected at large to 4-year terms. During this election, voters will be deciding upon 3 positions for the Board of Education. During the forum, speakers will be given roughly 2 minutes to answer questions. We have a commissioner in the audience who will be raising a sign to let you know when you have 1 minute and then 30 seconds left to respond. To kick things off, I'd like to ask each of you to tell us about yourself and why you've chosen to run for office. We'll start with Kristen.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me today to share my thought about CUSD and also introduce myself. I'm from the family of educators. My parents-in-law, they are all retired from the school. And on my side, both my grandfathers, they fund the private school together back to Taipei. Our whole family all have the passion about the education. My day-to-day job is a finance professional. I'm doing the accounting and finance field, has been 14 years for now. And I have been doing the volunteer in community for 15 years. In the beginning, I was doing the tax prepare, volunteer for the older people and the low income people. And since 2009, I started doing child-related project. And start from 2011, I doing the, my husband and I found a private foundation to serve underprivileged kids. So this time, because I know there are 2 open seats, and I kind of feel like the current board needs some people who first is the parents for CUSD, plus have the finance background can help doing review the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Good evening. My name is Chris, and I'm very thankful to be here today, and I'm glad to be here. When I heard that we can talk about our schools and there will be free pizza, I couldn't refuse. Okay, seriously, I was about your age when my family brought me to the United States. And we didn't have a lot of belongings and we spoke very little English. But the public education system helped me to where I am today. So now I'm a patent attorney, I'm a father of two, and I live in one of the best places in the world. And this is all because of the public education that we were able to receive. So I care about our schools and our education. So that's why when I was in college, I started tutoring other immigrants English. I started tutoring math and science to my fellow students. And after I graduated from law school, we settled down in Cupertino, and I started getting more and more involved with our local community. I joined the Cupertino Rotary, doing a lot of interesting and meaningful projects for our local community and global community. I got involved with Xinxin Education Foundation, helping children from other parts of the world to receive a good chance. And I also got involved with Cupertino Education Endowment Foundation, helping our local schools. Our schools are pretty good, but we have a few challenges ahead of us. And we need to work together to tackle these issues, and I will fight for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anjali?
Thank you. Thank you to the youth commissions of Cupertino and Saratoga for holding this forum. This is the most exciting forum I'm here because I kept saying, oh, the third one is going to be the best one, as it's for the youth and by the youth. So, you know, my name is Anjali Kausar, and I'm running for my second term on the Cupertino School Board. I have been a very active parent and volunteer in the school district for the past 12 years. I have 3 children who went through the school system and are now in high school. My youngest one just got done with Miller Middle School this past summer, and so I call myself recently graduated from Cupertino School District. I have been very, very active in the schools as a parent, as a PTA president, and the school site council. I was also the founding member for creating the Miller Middle School Foundation and also the Lynbrook High School Foundation. I am also, once I was elected in 2009, because of my interest and my passion for education, I decided to go back to school. And I earned my second master's in policy, organization, and leadership studies from the Stanford Graduate School of Education, which has helped me better understand the needs and the complex world of education. I'm running for my second term because I want to provide continued leadership and expertise, as I know there's a lot of work still to be done with Common Core and LCFF. And also to help with there will be 2 new members joining the team, and I want to help them learn the system and continue working with our existing board members. So I'm going to do the best I can to have a district for all our kids that is going to be better and good service to provide for the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, do we have a question from the audience members? All right, so how about I start things off again? It is often perceived that students in Cupertino schools are spending more hours studying than sleeping. And there have been instances where students have gone to extreme measures to get good grades to be considered competitive for college. How do you think schools can combat this troubling issue? And is there a role that our elementary and middle schools can play? And we'll start with Chris.
Okay, this has been a common theme that I've been hearing from the parents. And so a lot of parents feel like there's so much pressure on their kids, and they feel they have no choice because all the other kids are doing the same thing. So, and here's what I think. Cupertino schools are good because we have really good students. And if you guys want to excel at whatever you want to do, fine, it's okay. But at the same time, let's explore all the options that are available to you. There's only so many college seats, but you don't have to go to top universities, or you don't have to go to Harvard to be a successful person. I didn't go to Harvard, so I think I'm doing okay. So, and I know a lot of our leaders in the community which I have come to respect a lot. A lot of them did not graduate from top universities, but they have all been very successful at what they're doing. So we need to bring a holistic approach to our education. Academics are important, but there are so many other things, soft skills, leadership skills, teamworking skills that are no less important, if not more, than academics. And my goal is to work with all the parents to identify how we can work together to hopefully reduce some of the stress. At the same time, we can educate a wholesome citizens for our future world. Thank you.
Thank you. Anjali?
You know, I totally believe that it starts in the middle school where we have to not only, it's more about educating the parents, because I think there's so much myth out there that says that every child when they get to high school has to be on a sports team, has to be on a club, has to take 10 APs and all that. And that's truly a myth. And I think there are some kids who can do that, but not all kids. And so I have been in the past 5 years since I've been on the school board, I have continuously talking to parents and talking to principals in our middle schools to have them talk closely with the high schools and to say, how can we provide opportunities at middle school so the parents know that what is coming in high school and that there are more than the 25 universities that the kids can go to. As Chris had said, you know, there's more than just the selective schools that everybody talks about. So the goal really is to increase the awareness for the parents in schools. And I think some of you, while you were in elementary schools, your parents may have attended some of the seminars and conferences that we have held at Miller, at Cupertino High, and everybody's been invited to those. And everyone does not, my message to every child is really, do what comes from the heart. Yes, we all have to get a 4-year degree, but at the same time, make sure you experience all the things that you can in high school also, and not just get bogged down by the academics of it.
Thank you. Kristen?
For the first time heard about me and my platform, I would like to introduce my stuff. So I have my platform called FACE Face. So on my FACE, the E is for education for the whole child. So I emphasize we are not only educate people chasing their academic achievement, but also we would like to have the child is a whole child, is a well-rounded child. So it's not only on the academic side, but also the ethics and extracurricular and all other stuff. We try to make sure all the kids, they are well-rounded. But of course, not all the kids, they can good at the sports, they can good at academics, they can good at all kind of things. And I believe the stress, not only from the peer pressure, but also from the parents and also from the panic about like, what's, if I don't work hard enough, study hard enough, I won't, I will be behind. So I think it is very important for us to educate kids and also the parents how to handle this feeling and how to make sure we also make sure students' mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have a question from the audience? Oh, it looks like we have one over here.
Hi, this question is for all 3 members. I was wondering how you guys were going to use all these different, how you are going to express that physical and mental are equal and what you are going to do to implement that in schools.
All right. We'll start with Anjali.
Physical and mental health. I think we have to make sure that there is a balance of what is happening and opportunities that are given to the children at our schools. And in that, not only the school, but the parents play a big role, because the kids are at school maybe 6 to 7 hours a day, but the rest of the time they're home. And so we need to be sure that opportunities that are presented at school, the kids take it, but not to the extent where they are getting so stressful that it is mentally and physically affecting them. So what I always, when I'm talking to parents, I'm always encouraging them that you know your child best. And so if you are seeing some signs that your child, even though your child is saying, no, I can handle 4 APs and be on a sports team, but you know your child cannot do that, please step up and say something and have them sit down and really think it out to see, is it really necessary for them to take these classes or be on a club and a sports team? And what are the priorities? What is it that they're looking for to do in the future? And that's the way we can all balance it, because it's an old saying which says that a child, you bring up a child, it takes a village to bring up a child. So it is not just the school's responsibility or the parents, it's a combination between the school, the parents, and the community we all live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen?
I think communication is key for a lot of things. So first, if the kids, they don't feel comfortable on something, please speak out. And also, as an adult, I will try my best to make sure the balance. So I think it is not only the physical health and the mental health issue, it's also is a safety issue for the physical and mental and the internet safety issue. So first, we have to prevent some of the problem for the safety issue. So for the physical safety, we already start doing the, we have to provide a safety environment for our students. And also we already start doing the fingerprint requirement for the volunteer parents. And we can improve that. For the cyberbully, I believe we need to educate the students how to prevent the cyberbullying and also protect their privacy when they're using the computer. And third, for the mental health, I believe we have to educate them how to handle the negative feeling and how to make sure when they get anger or upset, it won't hurt anybody and themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Good question. You all look pretty healthy, so this is a good question. There are many factors affecting physical and mental health. Nutrition, how much play space our kids get, what kind of classroom environments they're in, and we need to focus on everything in the schools to make sure that good health provides a good learning environment for our students. I am a volunteer for CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, and part of what we deal with is how to respond to medical emergencies and things like a possible virus outbreak. These are the things that our school needs to prepare for. My wife is an occupational therapist. She has worked with, in pediatric settings, children with special needs. She has worked with combat veterans. So, and I've learned a lot from her. And one thing I learned is that a lot of treatment comes from prevention. And we need to identify the early cues when a student is not doing so well physically or mentally, and provide all the resources they need to help them overcome the difficulty at the earliest opportunity so that we don't have to deal with, hopefully don't have to deal with any severe consequences. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have another question from the audience. We have one over here.
One right here. You can stand up, please. As has been slightly discussed, if you are elected into your position, what will you do for cyberbullying? Because there's a big problem in this new age. This is for all the candidates.
Thank you for your question. We'll start with Kristen.
Hi, cyberbullying I think is a very serious issue, and based on what I know, is a lot more and more students, they're afraid of attend school because cyberbullying. And I think it's a very sad fact. So, so first, we need to educate kids when they experience cyberbullying, what they can do. Based on my understanding, there are a lot of organizations that can help kids, and we should let them know what is the best way to handle it. And secondly, we have to educate kids, not only cyberbullying, but also like the physical bully is not okay. When you are angry or upset with anything, you should have the right way to handle it. It's not just bully anybody else. Third, I think we have to make sure, be proactive, make sure kids, they can protect themselves during using the computer, during the internet. They have to protect themselves. It's just similar like the physical world. They have to protect themselves. We have to educate them how to protect themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Okay, cyberbullying is a form of bullying. Let's recognize that bullying has always been around. Cyberbullying is just bullies utilizing a new technology. I was a victim of bullying when I was in school, but back then we didn't have internet, so sometimes kids had to walk a long way to come and call me names. But now we have the internet, so it becomes more convenient. But it's still, in essence, it's still bullying. You do take away the technology, it's still, there's the perpetrator, there's the victim, and there's the psychological factors. It's all the same. So we need to use traditional common sense approach to bullying and foster team spirit with the students, identify the bullies, and make sure that they receive the proper consequences for being a bullies, and teach our kids that this is not right and that we need to respect each other. So prevention, again, is very important, and identify the bullies and have very strict policies towards them. That's I think that's the right solution for our schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as mentioned by my fellow candidates, what we have been doing in our schools already, and I know some of you here are from Lawson Middle School, what we call the common sense media, where you all have once a month training on, which talks about what bullying is, because sometimes I think our students don't know what bullying, you can't recognize it, you don't realize that what's happening to you is a type of bullying. So we even start younger, where in the elementary schools, almost every elementary school has citizen building program. Some of them have what's called Project Cornerstone, where they teach the kids how to be able to recognize things like this, or what is the best way to handle it, who are the safe adults, and what can be done if you are a victim. The biggest thing is, I think, is communication. The child needs to feel safe enough to talk to an adult, whether it be at school or at home, that can recognize the fact that what is happening to them is bullying. And by introducing the common sense media in our curriculum, which we did, I want to say a year or two ago, that has helped people recognize it, see where it's happening, and sometimes it's even, I think us as adults may not recognize what's going on as bullying because it's got so many different facets to it. So I would encourage all of you, and one thing that I would encourage all of you to be is, if you see it, stand up and talk. Maybe that person cannot talk for themselves, but if you see it, be strong, stand up, and report it, and talk to them about it, and go to a safe adult. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for maybe one or two more questions, and I just want to remind everybody before we proceed to please turn off your cell phones. And we have a question over here, it looks like.
So I'm glad that you guys brought up something about talking to schools, like having assemblies in schools, specifically about cyberbullying. How do you think you guys would do this? How would you execute educating people about stress and this sort of stuff.
Thank you for your question. We'll start with Chris this time.
So the question is how to educate people about how to deal with stress. And the stress could come from academics or bullying or a few other things, right? So I think for the most part, our kids, the stress comes from academics. So this goes back to how we reduce the stress from academics for our kids. And we've covered those before. And the important thing is, as my fellow candidates have mentioned, encourage them to speak up when they feel like they need help. Let them know that there's no stigma or any taboo attached to needing help. When I was in school, I was in similar situations, and I was a little bit afraid to seek help because I feel like that was kind of the weak thing to do. And we need to encourage our kids to seek help, and we need to provide the proper support within the school structures, either be a therapist or a consultant or teacher that they can go talk to, and hopefully that we can work things out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anjali?
Stress is a real thing for everyone, whether it be children or adults. The one thing we have to do is we cannot say we can make the world stress-free, because then there's no fun, right? Because stress is part of life. But what we can do is we can recognize stress and then work to see what are the factors that make the stress happen and what are the factors that help us relieve it. And for those reasons, like in high school, in our K-8 program, we think that maybe kids that young would not have, but most of the times the stress starts building in the middle school years, because that's when you're going through a lot of change in your, as a child. You're growing up, getting into the teenage years, and there's changes happening. So you have to feel comfortable to talk to an adult. And I think the key is to be able to communicate and not be shy and not think that, oh, it's only happening to me. You may be surprised to find out it's happening to a lot of other people too. And among our schools and teachers, I think the teachers have been trained and to recognize if they see that something is happening, to pull that child out and say, what is it and what is it that we can help? And also to help with providing the parents, help parents recognize some of the factors and do some more workshops that I had mentioned earlier. We've had a number of different seminars over the years that recognize, assist our parents to see what is it that they can help in educating our kids and going forward. In the high school setting, I do know in the physical, when you do PE, I don't know how many of you are here from a high school where in the 9th grade, part of the PE curriculum is teaching you yoga. Yoga kind of helps you relieve and gives you time to just think and relax. So there are different techniques that are used across the district and across in different high schools. So, and I cannot really speak for high schools because we are a K-8 district. I can only relate to what I've seen from my own kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen?
Hi. I think first we have to help kids how to identify what stress is. So sometimes when they are very stressful, they don't even know they are under the stress. So we have to help them recognize the stress and understand, identify the stress. And secondly, I have to attend one seminar is related to nutrition. It's actually saying the good nutrition actually will help you handle the stress. So because stress sometimes will really affect our body, our hormones, and will make your brain, everything, it got just messed up. So make sure you have a good nutrition is very, it will help. And secondly, I have heard some Canada schools, they have some Zen movement, like when they first just step into the school, what they do is they have like 15 minutes just the quiet time, and that will help people actually in the following day actually have a better mood to handle stress. And next, I would like to say, like, if you identify you feel you're stressed, you should talk to your authority and find out the solution. Because sometimes you are not alone. Sometimes you are too panicked to figure out what the solution is. But if you talk to people, you will figure out what the solution is. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and thank you to our audience for those excellent questions. We're going to be taking a 5-minute break now, and when we return, we'll have our candidates for the Saratoga Union School District Board of Trustees.
G-morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me. Are your parents home later? We can hang. LUV, love you. JK. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you with your friends? That's lame. We're in a huge fight right now. XO. What'd you dream about? Something I did. Are you on your way to the mall? I'm lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Today, the world we live in is fast-paced and ever-changing. We need a senator who will lead us into the future. We need courage. We need integrity. We need someone who won't walk away from trouble. We need Bag of Leaves. Cast your vote to elect Bag of Leaves in the midterm elections.
If you're not voting, then who are you electing?
A high level of parent and community involvement is evident in schools throughout Cupertino, where students' test scores are consistently ranked in the state's top tier. The Cupertino Union School District serves 17,500 students in 20 elementary schools and 5 middle schools. The district encompasses the city of Cupertino as well as portions of surrounding cities. Classrooms are culturally diverse, with 46 different languages represented. Cupertino schools are also known for their innovative use of technology throughout the curriculum, an effective tool to enrich student learning. Older students attend one of 5 high schools in the Fremont Union High School District, 3 of which are located within the city of Cupertino. Like the elementary school district, the high school district also achieves academic performance scores that are among the highest in California.
So my name's Chad Sutton. I work for Water Savers Irrigation, and I'm representing HydroPoint Data Systems Technology, which has now been installed by the city to help conserve water in their outdoor irrigation.
What do you want regular people who are coming by and talk to you, what do you want them to take away?
I want them to understand that the city has made a commitment to conserving water and protecting the environment by purchasing cutting-edge technology that will allow the city to save millions of gallons of water that was going to waste previously.
Okay, where are the units installed throughout the city?
City parks, city medians, and I think there's over, 100 different controllers installed, so it's all over the whole entire city.
For more information about this and other programs that can help you keep Cupertino and your home green, visit cupertino.org/green.
I've seen the pictures of what it does to your body. I think it's just gross.
So what do you think of smokers?
I personally am not a big fan of smoking, but it's not my place to judge others.
I think that it's just kind of sad how they've gone into this habit.
They smell bad and they're not going to live as long as people who don't smoke.
But let me tell you something, the tobacco company wants you, all of you. Their biggest group that they go after and the fastest growing group of smokers is age 14 to 18.
If there's one thing they should do is that they should definitely quit. I mean, there's no benefits in smoking. Personally, I think it's kind of gross.
They're not the smartest to fix smoking.
It's crazy. It's like, come on. They kill people.
No tobacco.
Brought to you by the Cupertino Teen Commission.
Hello, and welcome back to Pizza and Politics, hosted by the Cupertino Teen Commission and the Saratoga Youth Commission. And thank you to the candidates from the Saratoga Union School District Board of Trustees for joining us tonight. There are 5 members on the Saratoga Union School District, and the term of office is 4 years. During the upcoming election, a total of 3 positions on the Saratoga Union School District of Trustees will be voted upon. The candidates vying for the 3 open positions are Ms. Susan Germeraad, Ms. Patty Buchanan, Ms. Cynthia Miller, Ms. Laura Tillett, and Mr. Yongjian Wu. Before I turn things over to the candidates, I want to remind everyone to remain in this room until our commercial break at 8:15. Additionally, I encourage you all to ask the candidates questions. If you have a question, just raise your hand and one of the commissioners from Cupertino or Saratoga will approach you with a microphone. The candidates will be given approximately 2 minutes to answer questions, and one of our commissioners in the front row will raise a sign to let candidates know when they have 1 minute left and then 30 seconds. To get things started, I'd like to invite each of the candidates to introduce themselves and tell us why they've decided to run. And we'll start with Susan.
Hi, my name is Susan Germeraad, and I actually grew up in Saratoga, graduated from Saratoga High School, and then left for 33 years. And I came back 16 years ago with my 2 children to the community where I knew that they were going to get a great education because I knew that the community was going to have maintained the schools and the excellence in the schools that I'd experienced when I was there. The last 15 years I've spent in room 77 at Redwood Middle School as a science teacher, and I just retired this last June. I'd like to stay active in promoting education for our youth in Saratoga, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you. Patty?
Thank you to the youth commissioners and Crystal for having us here tonight and organizing this event. I am running for school board because of 2 reasons. The first one is I feel very strongly about providing each and every student a great education. My husband and I moved here 14 years ago with our 4 children, and they all attended SUSDs and received an amazing education that has allowed them to succeed now that they're older. So I want to make sure that continues and everybody else gets the same opportunities they got. I was lucky enough after my children were older and I had been volunteering in the schools to be able to go back to school and get a teaching credential, a bilingual teaching credential. So I also taught at Redwood for a very short amount of time. And I worked with English learners in 2 of our elementary schools. So I'm very passionate about education and how engaged learning should be happening in the classroom. Second reason I'm running is because of the experience I bring to the board. I was elected 4 years ago and have spent the last 4 years working hard to make sure I understand the budget process, collective bargaining, the policies that govern school districts, and how Saratoga and the Saratoga Union School Districts work. I think because of my experiences as a parent, as a volunteer, as a teacher, and now for the last 4 years as a trustee, I bring experience to the board that's pretty unique. I think I can look at situations and issues from a lot of perspectives, and that helps me in making decisions. So Saratoga is an amazing school because we have a wonderful community, we have involved parents, dedicated teachers, and a school board that tries to listen and leads the group so that we can focus on educating the students. I want to become, I am part of that group. I want to still be a part of that group for the next 4 years. So I'm hoping that with your parents' support, I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia?
Okay, so I've lived in Saratoga for almost 20 years now with my husband and my 2 children who both go to Saratoga High School right now. I have an undergraduate degree in computer science and economics from Dartmouth College and a master's degree in business from Stanford. I worked here in Silicon Valley in the technology industry for over 15 years, and I've been a very active volunteer in our schools for a long time now. I was president of the Saratoga Parent Nursery School when my children were young, and just last week I was in a 4th grade classroom at Saratoga Elementary where I was helping both the teacher and the children learn how to use the online math program Khan Academy. Many of you may be familiar with that. I think we're very fortunate to have good schools both here in Cupertino and in Saratoga. I believe, though, we can do a little bit better. In Saratoga, we need to do a little bit better job of how we communicate with our parents. We need to do a little bit better in how we manage our finances. And I believe overall we can do a little bit better in how we provide the best quality education to all of our children. And I'd like to help serve our community by giving back and helping us to do that little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura?
Hi, my name is Laura Tillett. I've lived in Saratoga for 17 years. I have 2 daughters. One is currently a high school student at junior high school, and one is in college at Duke University. They all went through the Saratoga Elementary School District. I have a degree in computer science and a minor in mathematics. I've worked at HP and Microsoft as engineers. I've been PTA president at Saratoga Elementary School, at Redwood, and now currently at the high school. I'm bringing a lot of programs to the high school now to help parents help you prepare for your high school applications and college success. I'm running for Saratoga Elementary School District Board because I do care about education just like all of us do here. Very passionate about your learning process. I want to get involved, learn more about the Common Core, and make sure that it meets the needs of all of our students in education. I do believe we need more communication between the school board, between the parents, the community, and even the high school. I think we need to collaborate more together. One concern I have is textbooks going from Redwood to high school. I think there needs to be more communication between the two on education. For example, textbooks in Spanish in Redwood and 1 and 2 is not giving us enough education to go right into Spanish 2. We don't use the same textbooks, and that's desired amongst the teachers at the high school. I want us to be fiscally responsible, and I also am running because I'm glad we have choices. I'm glad we're not having an appointed board. I think it's great that the community gets to choose.
Thank you. Yongjian?
Thank you. Thank you, Cupertino Teen Commission and the Saratoga Youth Commission for giving us this opportunity to introduce ourselves, and also thank you, Crystal, for moderating this. I'm Yongjian Wu. I came to the States 20 years ago with nothing and built my American dream here and live in beautiful Saratoga City. I deeply believe that education can change people's life. And I would like to have our next generation have the equal opportunity or even better than we have. So I'm passionate to make sure that our schools serve our needs so that our students can prosper. I have been married 20 years and I have 2 kids. My daughter, 14 years old, just finished the CUSD school district and she's a freshman in Saratoga High. And my son is 3 years old, will go through this 9 years of this school district. So with my daughter's experience, I do appreciate the strength of this school district. I also realize some things that can be improved. And with my son gonna go through this district, I have vested interest to make sure that this district will prosper, not only for my child, but for all child in Saratoga. Among the most important things, I believe that the school needs to have adequate classroom hours. Unfortunately, last year, our school district cut the school hours, and I think that's a wrong direction for strengthening education. So if I got elected, we need to change that. We need to restore the school hours. My goal is 5 full school days. Second, when we move on to Common Core, we want to make sure that all the education opportunities are there. We don't dilute the academic levels. Last but most important, improve the communications between the community and the schools teachers.
Thank you. We'll move on to our first audience question. It looks like we have one up in the front.
Hello, I'm Jishnu Swami, and I just wanted to ask, since my school recently initiated a one-on-one iPad program for the students, I just wanted to ask you candidates how you feel about the use of special technology in middle schools, elementary schools, and even high schools.
Thank you. We'll start with Patty.
Thank you for the question. It's an excellent one. As a board member, I was part of a group that looked at a technology plan that thought about one device per student. Our district is not quite ready to do that financially, but I think it's an excellent move. What we decided to do instead, and my philosophy on this is that technology is a part of every job each of you will have. We have a responsibility to teach you and to make sure you can work with it. One-on-one is a great program. Unfortunately, our district needed a director of technology before we decided how to pursue this. So we decided this year that that would be the first step, and we are hiring a director of technology so that we can figure out the best way to proceed in our district to make one-on-one a reality if that's where our community wants to go. More importantly, I think once you have the devices, is making sure that the staff and the teachers know how to use it appropriately so that it becomes an effective tool for education. Technology is not something to have in a school district just to have technology. It needs to have real-life applications and help students become engaged and learn. So we need to make sure we have outcomes that can be measured. So thanks for your question.
Thank you. Cynthia?
So I think the key with purchases of technology is that you're not just going out and buying devices and passing them out and then trying to figure out later what you're going to do with it. You need to start by asking yourself, how is this going to make a difference to the learning of each and every child in that classroom? And that's the hard work that our district still has to do, and frankly, we're behind, and that does disappoint me. I have spent, I've been in at least 15 classrooms in the last couple of years teaching teachers and students how to use Khan Academy. How many of you have used Khan Academy before? Have any of you used it? Look at that. Look at that. And you know that it is a fantastic platform for learning math. It also has an amazing amount of content for science. They're putting AP curriculum there, and they also have a wonderful new module, by the way, on how to apply to college. All about how to write your essays, how to figure out what colleges you want to go to, and so forth. I believe that technology in that sort of venue, Khan Academy, CK12 is another one to look at, can make a huge difference in what you're able to get out of your education. And so I'm a passionate fan of it. But I'm not a big fan of just racing out and buying the computers first and figuring out how we're going to use them second.
Thank you. Laura?
Yes. Saratoga has a highly affluent parents who put in a lot of time to supplement the education of our children. But I do feel, I agree, that our use of technology is behind the curve. We don't have an adequate budget for technology. We haven't had adequate budget for some time. So we've fallen short, and it needs to change. A lot of our teachers haven't we need teachers to move on to technology plans also to make it work in the classrooms. We need the funding possibly to help them learn how to do that, and funding for the tools. There's several programs I think that would work well, which is called flipped classrooms. I don't know, I think most of you know that, where you record, the teacher records their lecture, you watch it at home as homework, you do your work in the classroom where you actually have your teacher helping you out. Another one is just to have the classroom lectures recorded so that you can pay attention and listen instead of worrying about notes all the time. And you can watch it back at a convenient time for you. So technology is absolutely critical. There's lots of tools out there outside the classroom. We can do a better job in the classroom, but we need to make that happen.
Thank you. Yongjian?
This is an excellent question, and the school board can do something about that. School board controls the budget allocation, and I strongly believe that the technology budget is very important for our students to thrive. And unfortunately, current budget passed in CUSD does not have adequate money reserved for the technology portion. On top of that, this comes back to that if we can guarantee the school hours, then we can strengthen the extracurricular activities. Today, we live in Silicon Valley. iPad access actually is pretty easy. At family, you have iPad, and the kids are smart. They can do app programming. Like my daughter goes to summer school. I'm pretty sure many of you go to summer school, learn Java and apps programming. They program better than me do. So I think that extracurricular activities, the programming language can be introduced in middle school. That will enrich the students. They learn new technology. We take full advantage of. We live in this thriving Silicon Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
Yes, well, it certainly is true that I think we are a little behind a lot of other districts in Saratoga. As a teacher, I was fortunate to be in the science department where we did have access to some computers attached to the classroom, so that we did have a little more access than some of the other programs. But I'm not sure whether we actually need one-on-one in every single classroom, but we can go a long ways by having mobile carts and having access to them several days a week. I think it's definitely a direction we need to move in. Last year when I was teaching, we were doing a lot of experiments with the new learning management system, giving assignments online, having assignments turned in online. I think that is the future for you, for us.
Thank you. All right, do we have one more question? I think we had a question over here in the back.
So what do you think of teacher tenure, and how can we prevent good teachers from becoming fired and vice versa?
Thank you for your question. This time we'll start with Cynthia.
Okay, so sorry, we're all laughing because we had another forum a week ago, and a question came up, and I got to explain what's going on in this, so they're all telling me do it again. So recently there was a court decision that was handed down regarding, among other things, teacher tenure. The name of the case is Vergara versus California. That case was brought on behalf of a handful of students in the Los Angeles School District. And the issue at hand was that when you do layoffs, how do you make sure that all students continue to have a quality education? And what the court found was that tenure as it's handed out in California now, where teachers qualify for tenure within 2 years, but practically speaking are judged within about the first 18 months, violates a student's right to a quality education here in California. The court also ruled that our rules about seniority layoffs and so forth all are part of that. There actually were 5 different parts of the Ed Code that the court ruled as unconstitutional, and that is now being appealed, and so it will work its way through the courts. Generally speaking, I believe that we hand out tenure way too quickly in California. I don't think the issue of tenure, originally it was a university-related issue. I really don't know that it applies at the elementary school level. Certainly, employees need to have some due process when there are issues about whether or not they should continue to be employed, but I don't think we really need to go quite as far as we do today.
Thank you. Laura?
Yes, I am in favor of the Vergara. I hope it goes through. I do think that, and I've talked to several principals, that I do think we give tenure way too early, that you need much more time to watch a teacher work in a classroom and see that they're consistent over multiple years, not just 1 year, to guarantee a job for life. And also, we don't, when it is time to lay off due to financial hardships or budgets in the district, we have to have flexibility to keep the right teachers, the ones that are most effective and most helpful to our students. So I totally hope that that goes through.
Thank you. Yongjian?
In short, I support Judge's ruling, and I also support the position of Marshall Tuck for not repealing it. I think that teachers' tenure for 2 years, you acquire tenure, and it's way too short. And this does not benefit the students. I also believe that the teacher tenure, the school board can do very limited things. This is the legislative jurisdiction, and I think what school board can do is to make sure that when you do layoff, can we work out that you don't strict it based on tenure, but based on performance. And also I would like to have a system that actually teachers' performance have students' input. We have that. When I was a teaching assistant at Vanderbilt University, every semester, after semester, we got a ranking from students. That depends on if next year you still get the teaching assistantship. That type of system really pushes you to do your best, not when you get tenure and then you just sail through. That really hurts our education. So that's my position.
Thank you. Susan?
As a teacher, I have to say that I enjoyed having tenure. I can't deny it, but I think that it comes way too early in somebody's career. I actually don't think you need it at all. I think you do need protections. You need great evaluation of your teachers. You can't go into a situation where you're laying off and you're using hearsay to decide who is the best performing teacher, most effective teacher. So I think you need an evaluation system that is giving feedback to teachers, helping teachers improve themselves, and but they do need due process. I think it's and as a teacher, the longer you're in a school district, the more you're paid in a school district. And there's a real temptation when money gets tight to lay off the teachers who've been there the longest. And I think that in many cases you want to avoid that. Yeah.
Thank you, Patty.
And I'm in agreement with my colleagues here that tenure does come too early. But I think it's a two-phase conversation. One is the tenure one, and the other one is evaluations. I think every teacher I have talked to says that it would be nice to have a system that is fair, that maybe includes peer review as well as your superior review, and that it's a cycle that provides the ability to get better. Even the most senior teachers, I think, want to get better and want to improve. And a better evaluation system is key, so that when we do provide tenure, whatever that decision is made, we can do it based on facts and on how the teachers are performing when they help our students and keep them engaged in learning.
Thank you. So we're going to allow one last question. However, due to time constraints, we're going to only give you guys 1 minute to answer. So is there anybody in the audience who has a burning question for our candidates?
My brother the other day was kind of teased by his fellow students for being a different religion than them. How do you think you can stop discrimination of religion? Thank you.
Tough question for 1 minute. We'll start with Laura.
Yeah, a lot of, the candidates before us talked about bullying and cyberbullying and how we can help with that. It starts with you. You have to have enough confidence in yourself to stand up, not only for yourself, but for others, and say no. And if you can say no, find someone that you feel comfortable with to say it isn't right. I do feel interesting about a religion issue, and I talk to my kids about it all the time. We have a lot of ethnic groups in our community, and it's important for you to share that information with everybody, make everyone feel okay, whether you have a religion or you don't have one. Don't make someone feel bad because they may not be in your religious group. Sometimes students seem to congregate with only students of that religion. And sometimes the others feel like outsiders and not comfortable with that. And it's not right for you to put that upon somebody else. It's freedom of religious belief, and it has to start with you being tolerant.
Thank you so much for your answer. Yongjian?
Thank you. I think this is a very good question, and I personally relates to the tragedy that happened in Saratoga High School a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, that I think school education is very important. After that tragedy, Redwood Middle School did the right thing. They invited the Deputy DA of Santa Clara County for educate the parents that the school environment has zero tolerance. So bullying, cyberbullying will not be tolerated. And not only the students, but the parents will be held accountable if your student engage in those behavior. And I think that as a school board, we have the liability, the responsibility to maintain a fair and free environment for all students to thrive.
Thank you. Susan?
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say that we need to maintain the programs we have in place to teach students about sensitivity to others and to appreciate and respect one another. And the majority of students are not the targets or the bullies. The majority of the students are the people around them, the bystanders, their friends. And you've got to be a friend. You've got to watch out for one another. You are the majority. You can make this stop. So, I think we just have to keep the programs going in the classrooms, starting in kindergarten every year.
Thank you. Patty?
And I agree. I think probably the most important word we all need to remember is respect. We live in such a diverse community. And I think from kindergarten, the word respect needs to be taught, and people need to start understanding what it's like to accept and respect others. I look at our green triangle there, and one of the points is caring and responsible citizens. And that's part of our mission as a school board, is to provide an environment that helps you be a caring and responsible citizen and teaches you how to do that. I hope we continue to do that too, and if elected, I intend to make sure all these programs stay in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia?
So the specific question was about somebody being teased about their religion, but we all know that's not the only issue that comes up. Sometimes people are teased because they look different. Sometimes they're teased because they have an accent. Sometimes they're teased because they have a physical handicap. Sometimes they're teased because they're a little bit different in their personality. There are a lot of reasons why children get teased. And when it goes very far, we call it bullying for good reason. And it certainly should not be tolerated. I'm very pleased that our district has taken a strong, has put a lot of funds behind trying to deal with this. We have invested in a program called Project Cornerstone. I would like to see us work to update that program a little bit. Some of the material is a little bit dated, but I think the intent behind it is to make sure that all the students understand that Teasing to the point of bullying is not acceptable. And as Susan pointed out, the most important thing is for all of you bystanders to stand up and say no.
Thank you, candidates. We appreciate your time and taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with the youth of our community.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll be taking a 5-minute break and returning at 8:20 with Saratoga City Council member Chuck Page, who is a candidate for the 28th Assembly District, and Campbell City Council member Jason Baker, representing fellow Campbell Council member Evan Lowe, who is also running for the 28th Assembly District, but cannot be here with us tonight due to a loss in the family. And for those of you who are seeking extra credit, we're actually going to have the sign-in sheet after the 3rd round of candidate discussions.
Checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
Nice. Where'd you find the money for that?
I just been saving a little every month.
I can't seem to save anything.
Well, what about all this? What about the money you're spending?
What money? It's gone before I can get my hands on it.
I got a pizza for a Todd.
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
It's 547.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Frozen Peas, respected member of our community for years, determined to always do just the right thing, committed to support the growth of our children, and effective at lowering bad cholesterol. Frozen Peas, courage, integrity, fresh ideas. This message paid for by the Friends of Frozen Peas.
If you're not voting, then who are you electing?
I've seen the pictures of what it does to your body. I think it's just gross.
If you could define tobacco in one word, what would it be?
Dangerous.
Hazardous.
Devastating.
Harmful.
Terrible.
A gimmick.
Harmful. It's toxic.
Bad. Addictive drug. Harmful.
Disgusting.
Evil.
Stupid. Disgusting.
Addicting.
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
Gross.
Harmful. Addicting.
Gross. Upsetting. Harmful. Nasty. It would be like either disgusting or addicting.
Dangerous.
Death. Dangerous.
I'd say deceiving.
Unhealthy.
Dangerous.
Very bad. Horrible.
Disgusting.
That's deadly. Harmful.
I'm like, I really wish they would stop.
No tobacco!
Brought to you by the Cupertino Teen Commission.
My name is James Steed. I work with the City of Cupertino Street Trees Division. We're here today to help promote the City Street Tree Program and educate people as to the utility of trees. Instead of just being something that's aesthetically pleasing, they actually provide an important utility for the city as far as water sequestration, carbon sequestration, anti-erosion, oxygen production, and energy savings through shade and permissible light. The most important thing I think that people understand is that trees actually do provide a service. This is the only asset really the city has that once we plant a tree, its value actually increases over time. With proper management practices, proper work practices, the value of our urban forest will increase. And that's something that will be ongoing because we'll remove the older trees that are losing their value and we'll replace them with younger, more vigorous trees. So a park or any other sort of facility, once it's built, it begins to decline in value and it requires maintenance and an ongoing cost. The urban forest is something that once it's established, if maintained properly, is actually going to increase in value. I think it's important that people understand that and start viewing trees in a different light.
For more information about this and other programs that can help you keep Cupertino and your home green, visit cupertino.org/green.
Welcome back to Pizza and Politics. Thank you, Councilmember Page and Councilmember Baker, for joining us tonight. The 28th Assembly District includes the cities of Cupertino, Saratoga, Monte Sereno, Campbell, Los Gatos, parts of San Jose, as well as portions of unincorporated Santa Clara County and Santa Cruz County. There are two candidates competing to represent the 28th State Assembly District. These candidates include Councilmember Chuck Page from the City of Saratoga and Campbell City Councilmember Evan Lowe. Councilmember Evan Lowe couldn't be here tonight with us. However, Campbell City Councilmember Jason Baker has kindly agreed to be here on his behalf. Before we proceed, I'd like to remind everyone to stay in the room until we break. Additionally, our audience is encouraged to participate by sharing their questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand and a commissioner from Saratoga or Cupertino will come and bring the mic to you. Councilmember Page and Councilmember Baker will have approximately 3 minutes to answer their questions. And we have a commissioner in the front row who will let you know when you have 2 minutes, 1 minute, and 30 seconds left. To get things started, I'd like to start with introductions. Councilmember Page, can you tell us a little about yourself and why you've decided to run for the 28th State Assembly District?
Sure, thank you, Crystal. And first I'd like to thank the Teen Commission, or the Teen Commission of Cupertino and the Youth Commission of Saratoga for sponsoring this. This is a great event. I actually participated a couple years ago, not as myself. I acted as a presidential candidate at the time, so it was very interesting. But thank you very much. My name is Chuck Page. I'm a 58-year-old man. I've lived a full life, and I've been in business for 35 years. Started my career as a software programmer for IBM. I went to work for Microsoft ran their Southern California office, and then a bunch of smaller computer sales companies, and now I actually started my own small business in the investment and insurance business. About 8 years ago, I ran for Saratoga City Council, and I got elected. And I found that throughout my life, I've had this passion for helping people. In Saratoga, I had a lot of opportunities to work on a lot of volunteer type projects and with lots of different groups. I worked with, I was on our senior center board. I was president of the Friends of the Library when we did our bond measure, and then created our brand new library. And I love getting out and helping people. And on the Saratoga City Council, I found that I was able to take that passion for helping people and actually solve some problems along the way, which is something that it took me a couple of years before, when people called me a politician, before I actually could sit well with it, because there's a connotation about politicians. But I've learned that there are a lot of really good people that are in politics. And what I thought in running for State Assembly District 28 is that what we need in our state, with the number of problems we've got, that we need people with experience, people that have lived full lives, people that have experienced the kind of things that we, the people, are experiencing. And that's how we can actually work together with people and solve some of those problems, not just politicize them. And so that's why I decided to run. I actually thought that with my experience, with my skills, you know, this is a district in a state that's the most magnificent state in the nation, but yet we spend half of our budget on education, and we're ranked 47th in the country. We have the 8th largest economy in the world, driven right here from Silicon Valley, but more people in poverty than any other state in the nation. Something needs to change, and I don't think that the current policies, as they are going to continue. So I'm the difference maker. I'm the guy that's different than the current policies. So I decided to put myself forward and put myself out on the line to do this, because I think that the state can use somebody who's worked a full life and raised a family and can solve problems. And so I hope to bring that to Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Baker, can you introduce yourself and tell us why you are supporting Councilmember Lowe for the 28th Assembly District?
Absolutely, and throughout tonight, you know, I'll try my best to substitute for Evan. Those are tough shoes to fill. I can't always represent his policy specifically because I was thrown into this pretty quickly. It was a sudden loss, and my heart goes out to Evan and his family. But what I do know about Evan is he's a leader. I've worked with him for 6 years. He's been on the Campbell City Council for 8, and he's been mayor twice. And he's been a leader in the Campbell City Council on technology issues, on the issues of transparency in government, and the environment, and he's really shown himself to be a leader on the council and even statewide. He was the president of the Asian American Caucus for the League of Cities. Evan does have the experience. Chuck talked about that experience in this business is important, and I absolutely agree with that. This is a hard business, especially at the state level. It is the 8th biggest economy in the world. It's not a simple thing to run. It's not simple to get things done up in Sacramento, and Evan has the intelligence and the energy and the experience to do it. Evan not only has served 8 years on the Campbell City Council, he's also served as the district director for the current assembly member, Paul Fong. He knows this district because he's worked in the district. He's been out there on the streets, been the district director, and been the mayor of Campbell twice. He really cares about it. He's dedicated a lot of his life to learning what people in this district think, how to help them, how to solve their problems, and he's good at reaching across the aisle. He, like I, is a Democrat. And that's part of the reason I think he asked me to substitute in, because we think that the state's, under the leadership of Jerry Brown, is getting better. We're helping solve some of these budgetary back and forth issues, and Evan is excited to go to Sacramento and work on education, work on getting higher education more fully funded and more accessible to every student in California.
Thank you. We will move on now to our audience questions. Do I have anyone who's waiting to ask a question?
What do you think of SCA 5?
Thank you for your question. We'll start with Councilmember Baker.
So I'll tell you that there's been a fair amount of debate on SCA 5 in this assembly district. It's a bill that's failed a couple times. I don't expect it to come back up again. Evan and I have spoken about this a little bit, and I know that he has said that he would have voted against the bill because of the way it was, and because he really thinks that the solution to some of those problems is better funding, better access for all. You can kind of increase the pie overall. But Evan, I believe, and certainly I, understand the aims behind some of the things in SCA 5. Because the truth is, there are some ethnic groups who are overrepresented in prison and underrepresented in schools, and that's wrong. And we should try to fix that, not just for those folks, but for everybody, because we're all better when we have a diverse educational experience. When we go to school with people who are from all different backgrounds, it benefits everyone from every background. So the goals were right. There were problems with the bill, but I think that we do need to do something to address those long-standing issues.
Thank you. Councilmember Page.
Thank you. Well, plain and simple, I think that SCA 5 stinks. I think that it's a bill that would throw merit out the window and put, whether it's age, sex, color, national origin, ethnicity, above merit. When I grew up, and I'm still trying to grow up, I think, at 58. I'm not dead yet, darn it, which is a good thing. I'm not unhappy about it. But it was always, you work hard. I heard the words well-balanced growing up many, many times. You work hard in school, you play a sport, you play a musical instrument, you learn the arts, and you can achieve whatever you put your mind to. You know, but I ended up competing at every level. Elementary school, I got straight A's. It was awesome. Middle school, a little bit tougher. High school, a little bit tougher yet. The thing is that we do not want to create a system, whether it's in education or in anything else, and we're starting to hear about this in businesses, that some groups are overrepresented in certain businesses. I don't think that that's the way it should work. If you're the right person for the job, or you earn the ability to get accepted to one of our state colleges, you should have that opportunity. You should not be placed on a back burner so somebody of an ethnic group that somebody determines at some point in time is underrepresented. And the underrepresented terminology, every time that it's been talked about, it's about proportionality. So if you're 40% of the population of the state of California, then 40% of the people accepted or that are already in school should be of that ethnic group. I don't think that that's right. I think that merit ought to trump any kind of measure. I can only imagine what it would have been like, because SCA 5 applied to all levels of public education in the state of California. When I brought my daughter to Blue Hills School to register her for kindergarten, if SCA 5 had been in place, the principal could have come out and said, "I'm sorry, we have too many little girls here. Your daughter has to go to another school." They could have done that, because that's what the law allows. And so I'm totally against it. I think that merit is the way to do it. Schools have their own way of balancing out groups and making sure that there's diversity, as do businesses. We encourage that and we work for it. But at a state law level in public education, it's not right, period.
Thank you. Do we have another question from the audience?
Councilmember Chuck Page mentioned that California spends half its budget on public education, but we're so low in the state ranking. So what are your specific ways that you want to solve this?
Thank you for your question. We'll start with
Certainly.
Councilmember Page.
Thank you. First of all, it's not a one-shot kind of fix-it-all. Our education code, as evidenced by the Germeraad decision, has a lot of holes in it. It has problems. And I don't care whether you believe in the Germeraad decision or you believe that it's wrong. The fact is, it highlights that our education code has a lot of problems. And I think that we really need to get down to the basics of that, and really, it would be ideal to redo the whole thing. I had a really lengthy meeting with George Blumenthal, who's the chancellor of UC Santa Cruz, to better understand about higher education and how our schools, our public schools, are going out to out-of-state students and out-of-country students, and why they're doing that kind of searching. And I kind of thought I knew, but in our discussion, he actually agreed with me that the ed code, the best thing would be to do is throw the ed code out and start all over again. That's probably not going to happen, but I do think that what we need is we need the ability to, number one, take aspects of that code and get rid of it and start all over. We have to get down to a kind of a program where before kindergarten through third grade, kids at all levels, in all socioeconomic statuses, them and their parents understand the benefits of education. Instead of putting a wrapper up as the idol of what we want to do, somebody who may have dropped out of high school, and not every one of them has, but we need to cite people who have achieved things because of education and have them be the idols that our young people are looking for and trying to emulate. So I think that it's not an easy answer, but working together with the teachers' unions, which are the strongest political entity in the state of California by the nature of the amount of contributions they make. And so I think we all have to work together to really come up with something that at every level of negotiation, you have to ask the question, how does this benefit the kids? How does this benefit the education? If you can't answer that question, then maybe that topic isn't one that should be discussed at that point. You have to always base it on how is this beneficial for the education of our kids.
Thank you. Councilmember Baker, would you like to weigh in on the question?
Yeah, Evan is an educator himself. He's a teacher. He teaches at De Anza College, and I think part of the solution in terms of your specific question about what do we do with all that money, right? I think certainly we can always use more education funding, but it's also spending it smarter. And for me, it's at two levels. One is at the level where Evan teaches, at the community college district level, because we need to make 2- and 4-year degrees more easily accessible. We need to allow community colleges to do more 4-year degrees, and just make there's basically allow education to be more accessible to everyone, and not just rely only on the UC systems as our primary way of getting folks in. Community colleges are great. There are a lot of them. There are great teachers and great students there, and I think we can focus investment there. And then also, as early as we can, Head Start programs, transitional kindergarten programs, all those kinds of programs where you start so early so that the kids don't fall behind from the very beginning, either because their parents aren't there to read to them or because they've got other issues at home. If they start off on a bad foot, it's very difficult to get them up to where we need them to so they can graduate and be a successful contributing member of our society as much as we can and reach their full potential. I think that Senator and now Supervisor Smidian's transitional kindergarten program especially really focuses on that. It used to be we'd say, okay, let's focus on middle school, or let's focus on kindergarten or 4th grade. It's earlier than that. Kids start so young and can absorb so much information so early that we really need to focus that education early, and it will, just like you'd invest in anything else. You invest early and you'll get better returns, and I think that's really one of the keys.
Thank you. Do we have another question from the audience?
Hi. Thank you. There are currently 3 states that have legalized online poker, and there are rumblings in Sacramento that California might be the 4th. It has the potential to raise millions of dollars for the state coffers, but there are also some social costs involved. My question to both of you is, what is your stance on this, and do you feel that it can be licensed and regulated in a way that protects minors from getting pulled into it? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. We'll start with Councilmember Baker.
This is another easy one for me to say that I can't stand for Evan on this, but I can tell you my stance on it. And I don't know a lot about the issue, I'll be honest with you, but I think you hit the answer on the head at the end of it. And of your question, which is, I think it'd be very hard to license and regulate online poker, not only in terms of collecting taxes on it. We aren't very good at collecting internet taxes now. You're supposed to pay them, but it doesn't happen as much as I think we would like. And if we're going to make all that money, we can get it in licenses up front, I guess, but if we want to do it on a transactional basis, I think it's going to be very hard to do. And I think it's always, we always need to be very careful when we step into these issues. When we try to say, oh, let's legalize marijuana, let's legalize poker, let's legalize some sin, and the excuse is we'll make a lot of money off of it. And it sounds good up front, but several years down the road, when you're trying to pay for rehabilitation programs, either gambling addiction or drug addiction, you're trying to pay for all the associated problems with it. It just, in the end of the day, in my experience, isn't worth it. It's not where you want to go. So I wouldn't. I'm a very poor poker player myself. I enjoy it, but I'm not very good at it. I would get taken by a bunch of teenagers on the internet if you legalize it, and so maybe that's why I'm against it. But I think there are places where you can go and do that legally, and I don't approve of that in California.
Thank you, Councilmember Page.
Yeah. It was interesting when you asked that question about online poker. There was a whole lot of eyes that lit up. I'm not sure what that was all about, but a bunch of kids thinking that statistics class just took on a whole new meaning. I also think that that's something that, first of all, I admire the fact that our legislature, which normally the first time they think of money, they think of coming either to the cities or the taxpayers, that they're thinking of alternatives. That's a great thing. This is not the way to do it. You do not create social and health problems, because there are people that get addicted to poker just like anything else, and this is not something that we want to just go foolhardily into. So it's something that I would certainly urge a lot of caution. There'd have to be a whole lot of study, and it's not something I could see myself supporting in any kind of time frame.
Thank you. I have a question for you guys. What do you consider to be the most important issues facing teens in the 28th State Assembly District? And we'll start with Councilmember Page.
Which issue? Well, I think judging by the questions that the school board candidates got asked, I think cyberbullying is something that's of a lot of concern. I've got 2 daughters who are 18 and 21. My youngest just started at the University of Alabama, so I know that pain of out-of-state tuition, that every state college apparently is looking for. But I think that the bullying aspect, I saw it in my kids, it started very early. And for the women and the girls in this room, my heart goes out to you because as a boy, I got bullied, it was a punch, and that heals, the bruise healed. But I'll tell you, girls are vicious. You guys, man, oh man, I mean, I saw some of the things that my girls and their classmates went through. So I think that is something that we need a whole lot of education. We need a whole lot of, as was mentioned earlier, it's about teaching respect. And if everybody can respect each other, we won't have that. The other part of it is, and at Saratoga Elementary School, it's been very big, and at Foothill too, I think, it's being an upstander. You have to stand up for your friends. You have to stand up for your neighbors. Those people that sit idly by and let it happen are as guilty of bullying as the bully is. And when I grew up, you didn't have the internet. We didn't have all these ways to get out, whether it's a nasty picture of somebody or whatever. There's so many more ways to bully someone today. So it has to start at a younger age, as soon as people start to get ingrained in technology. But the respect part's got to come a lot earlier. And that's why I'm a big proponent of programs that are from the pre-K through third grade. That's when that foundation of learning and that foundation of respect really begins. I mean, it starts at the home. And not everybody gets it there, but we have to really work towards making sure that it does.
Thank you. Councilmember Baker?
I think Chuck is right in terms of bullying is important, and also I think the stress that came up in those, the kids are stressed these days because the demands on kids, especially to achieve, and especially in this district, because we're such a high achieving district, especially in this area, and I applaud you for your schools, that there's a lot of stress on kids to perform and do well and do better than the last year. And I think that's a real issue. And I applaud the candidates earlier for talking about trying to introduce ways to deal with stress earlier for kids. Because if the stress comes earlier, the techniques to deal with it should come earlier. The other thing, though, is I think teens are people. I think teens have a lot of the same problems and concerns that we do as adults. They are worried, about crime. They want to feel safe. They want to be able to walk to school. They need to be continue to work on the same things we've been trying to work for our whole community with, which is healthier eating, healthier lifestyles. And again, it's what I was talking about before. You start early in teens and earlier, and that can last a lifetime. And I know that nationally we have a problem with weight with kids, and I think that it's those kinds of issues that an assembly member can focus on to try to work to have a healthier, safer district that will resonate with all the residents, including the teens.
Thank you. We have time for one more question, and I'd like it to come from one of our young audience members. Is there somebody who would like to ask a question? It looks like we have one up here.
Mr. Page said that we have one of the worst education systems in the country, number 47. So do you guys really think that implementing Common Core will really be the answer to fixing that?
Thanks for your question. We'll start with Councilmember Baker.
I don't know if it will be the answer to fixing that. I think that teaching kids in different ways can help. I think that I've got a 4-year-old and 6-year-old, so I'm on the way to learning some of this, and they're starting Common Core in my kids' schools, and I'm watching it, and with the usual terrified deer in headlights look that parents get. It's hard watching your kid learn Common Core, he's got to learn the mouse and the computers, and because that's how they're being tested. But I think because of the new testing regimes the Common Core introduces, at least that I've had with my son, where they do change the level of the questions to the student, and they focus more on having the student figure out how they got to the answer and less on just the answer. I think that will help turn out in the end students who are better critical thinkers and can do better in the kinds of demanding jobs that that our sons and daughters and the next generation is going to be looking at in the future. It's going to be a hard transition. Common Core is a big deal. It's a big change. I think that we need to continue to tweak it as we go along, fix it, fix what doesn't work and keep what works. But yeah, I'm hopeful that Common Core will make a change and help us have a generation that is competitive on a global scale. That's not an easy thing to do. We've got to do it, even if it's hard.
Thank you. Councilmember Page.
And I just want to ask, is that something you and Evan had talked about, or was that your opinion versus his?
You know, he's the educator. He knows a lot more about Common Core. I'm just a parent, you know, and I'll tell you, when I first got on council, when I first running for council, they said, council members don't do education, they don't do libraries. Now I'm chair of the library district, and two of my big propositions, get schools more communicating about emergency preparedness.
So your answer was really
well,
your answer, not Evan's. I just want to make sure.
Evan, you know, Evan, I have experienced, I've talked to Evan about education a lot for exactly what I was just trying to say, which is we think it's important for schools to talk emergency preparedness, talk more with the city. We've sat down with them on a regular basis.
Okay, thanks. So we've always had standard-based education. Common Core is another standard. And I've talked to people on both sides, the people that think it's really good. I mean, the concept is that instead of a thin layer of a lot of stuff, we get a deeper level of less stuff. That's supposedly the concept of Common Core. Anytime you go through a transition, it's very difficult. One of the issues I've got with it is that for 2 years, you don't have standardized testing. So you don't really know where we stand and how we stand with each other. And the idea of that every country in the world is, you know, to put us on this global spectrum that we're going to achieve more, it concerns me because I'm not sure that every country is implementing exactly the same thing. It just seems unrealistic to me that you would actually get to that point.
What's the alternative? You can't not compete?
Are we debating now, or are we?
No.
I thought we just answered
Well,
the question.
he interrupted my question.
Evan Lowe, no, I answered mine, and I just want to know if it was your opinion or his, that's all. So Evan Lowe teaches one class at De Anza College. I don't know, you know, to the degree that makes him an educator and an expert in education, but I do believe that Common Core is another standard that we do have the opportunity, and every school district has the opportunity to implement it in different ways. Campbell is doing it slightly different than Saratoga will, slightly different than Cupertino will. And if it's right for their kids and they can adapt it, then I think that it makes sense. Whether it's the end all, unfortunately, since we don't have standardized testing for a couple of years, all those results, we don't really know. And that's the part that concerns me the most.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our forum for tonight. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to our audience members for joining us. Election Day is November 4th, so make sure you get out and vote. And for those of you who would like more information about the candidates, propositions, local measures that are going to be on the ballot on November 4th, you can check the League of Women's Voters website at www.smartvoter.org. You can also get general election information from the Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters website, including polling locations, at www.sccvote.org. Thank you all, and again, if you'd like extra credit, be sure to sign in the lobby.